Today on the news and why it matters, Bernie Sanders undergoes emergency heart surgery, what that means for the campaign, and also, Orange Man bad and stuff. We got a lot coming up. It starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by Mr. Stubergear.
Thank you.
Mr. Eric July, YouTube sensation, Eric July.
A bit of an over-exaggeration. I like it.
Also, we appreciate you taunting Stu with your Cowboys gear.
Long. I mean, we took an L, but it's,
Awful. I used to like you.
And then Zuby Udezue back in the house.
Back again.
Thanks for being here. Got a lot to get into, but first we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. So American Financing is your go-to if you need a refi, if you need a home loan, whatever the case may be, you got to try out American Financing. Stu went to them when he wanted to look at doing a home loan, and he wanted to do some crazy home loan that you can only get from the people who break your legs in the back alley when you don't pay.
Yes.
And they were like, hey, you probably shouldn't do that because that's only done by people who go and break your legs in the back alley when you don't pay.
And I'm recovering from my injury as well. So it worked out in the end. Yeah, they're great. American Financing is fantastic, especially we had these really low rates that have been around for now a while, but they're not going to last forever. If you want to refinance, this is a great time to do it because you can lock in these really low rates for a long time. American Financing has tons and tons of options, the sane options. They have sane options for you, unlike the options that I usually select, but they do a great job.
They actually want you to be responsible with your money. What a concept. You can go to AmericanFinancing.net or you can call 800-906-2440. That's AmericanFinancing.net. They will get you taken care of. So Bernie Sanders has been hospitalized in Nevada. Apparently he was suffering chest discomfort. They had to rush him in to get, was it 2 stents?
Yes.
2 stents. So emergency heart surgery. And they have canceled campaign events until further notice. I think there's a couple different things to get into with this. The first one, though, I wanna talk about the way that the campaign released the information, because it seemed like they really downplayed the memo that they wrote. They just said, he's had some chest discomfort.
Resting for a few days.
Yeah.
A few days, yeah. That's interesting. I mean, look, obviously, first of all, despite that I disagree with him on many, many political issues, I'd like his internal organs to work properly.
Yes, we wish him well. We are all praying for you, Bernie.
Absolutely. And I think, it is a very strange thing because of the campaign ramifications. Look, a 78-year-old guy, it's not entirely unthought that he might have one of these types of incidents. But in the middle of this campaign right now, it's a really tough time for this for him. The campaign kind of comes out and does downplay it a little bit. But we were talking about this earlier in that, I had a friend who recently went through heart surgery, who's a younger guy, good shape. He had a hereditary sort of condition and had to have it. It was a minor surgery and planned months in advance. He knew exactly when it was going to happen. He knows basically how long the timeline is. Very routine. On the other hand is Jeffy, who we 10 months ago we saw one of our good friends who is not in good shape. Is the way I was way to frame it, and he'd agree with that. He had emergency surgery. Hey, I'm having chest pain. I'm going immediately into surgery. He was out for a good month before he could really get back to even normal activities. Bernie's much more on the Jeffy side, right? This is a scary thing that kind of comes out of nowhere. They just sort of let it out with a campaign release the next day. But we've got a debate in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. Is he going to be recovered from heart surgery in 2 weeks to full energy? And if he looks weak on stage, he's already in a tough place as far as his campaign goes. Now, I don't want him to be president, so I don't necessarily worry all that much about his campaign. But when you look at it from sort of the analysis perspective, this is a really bad time for this. Warren is rising. The Warren people the Sanders people are starting to trickle over to Warren anyway. You saw all the prediction markets. Warren's chances to win have now gone up by 10 and 15%. This is a bad time for Sanders, and you wonder if this is any more serious than they're letting on. You wonder if he's even going to continue after the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, I think it. all honesty, it derails his campaign, if you ask me. I think a lot of voters are going to start taking that stuff into consideration. I mean, they were doing that with Ron Paul when he was, what was that, 2012 last time he ran? And they were talking about, remember they talking about he is aged, but he's in good shape. You know, he bikes and does all that. He was like, I'll be fine. So he's creeping up there. And, you know, coming from something like that, it's a pretty big deal to have heart surgery, especially at that age. So people are going to take that into consideration. So it's not even just about even the campaign. I think a lot of people are looking into the future, like, okay, is this somebody that we want being president that, you know, I hate to say it, something may happen to him, you know what I mean? And he might not be able to, you know, survive it because he is up there in age, and we are seeing that he has some health-related issues. So I think a lot of people are going to take that into consideration, certainly considering that people are trying to figure out who they're going to support. I do believe, like you said, a lot of the Warren folks tend to be Sanders supporters and a lot vice versa. So I think this in itself is going to trickle people over there because they're like, wait a minute, this guy has some issues. But him just not even being there, not being able to campaign, of course, that's a big part of it. The people don't get to see him. And definitely if he misses that debate, or like you said, worse, he probably better off sitting it out than actually going there and performing badly because he just physically can't. So I think this in itself it may be a nail. It's maybe too early to say, but I think this is, if anything was going to do it, this is going to do it.
Yeah. Will this create some concern, some worry, you think, Zuby, for Bernie's base?
I think it will. I think I don't really have anything additional to add beyond what you guys have already said in the regards of the sort of political outlook and effects on his campaign it'll have. I think with something like this, though, I mean, I always feel like it's necessary to kind of take a step back from, I'm not even really interested in it from a political angle, and just kind of think, man, you know, health has got to come first.
Yeah.
You know, health has got to come first, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's where the focus, energy, attention kind of needs to be. I'm sure even from his own perspective, I'm sure he's there thinking of, oh, how will this affect the outcomes of the politics and everything like that. But anyone, whether they're a supporter or a non-supporter or whatever, I think any decent person is just kind of thinking, okay, we hope his health
because
gets taken care of, because that's the first thing.
You think about how much of a toll campaigning takes on your body, right? Just a regular person, all of the travel, all of the stress, all of the preparation. And then you throw into the mix that he's 78 and just had heart surgery.
Yeah, really tough. I mean, it's a tough life. We did one weekend in Iowa last year, and it was brutal, man. I mean, it is like you're in buses, you're in like, you know, green rooms of auditoriums. You're hearing the same speech 9 million times. There's always like muffins and like food that you shouldn't be eating hanging around. Like by the end of the weekend, I couldn't even move. I mean, it's just like, I don't know how these guys do it, especially in their 70s. I mean, you know, one of the most impressive things I think about Donald Trump is the fact that he's able to maintain his energy through these schedules in his 70s. I don't know how these guys do it. And it's why you see Elizabeth Warren running around to every little event to try to show off that she's essentially spry. I mean, the most devastating moments in a campaign, and you're right, it's somewhat trite to be talking about it in this particular moment, but I mean, it is, you know, it is connected. And the way these things are damaging to a campaign is when they reinforce something that people already kind of think. We saw that with Hillary Clinton last time. Like, oh, she seems kind of frail, and is she okay? And like, what's going on? And then when she has that moment where she faints, I mean, if that happened to Marco Rubio, I mean, people would have been like, well, that's weird. Right. And that would have been the end of it. But because it reinforced something, and the same thing with her corruption stuff, like people already thought the corruption thing was there. So when there's an FBI investigation that is announced 10 days before an election, right? Like, it is in people's minds. It's reinforcing, I was right about that the whole time. I didn't know why, but now I know I'm right. You know, that stuff is scary. And I think, like, when you see moments like this from a 78-year-old, people were already obviously considering this as an issue for Sanders. And this makes it, you know, I mean, it really does escalate. And I think for those voters, there's a lot of, if you look at people who have like first and second and third choices, there's a lot of movement between Biden and Warren and Sanders. There's very little movement between Sanders and Biden. People who like Bernie don't tend to go to Biden. And so if he does drop out, if he does endorse Elizabeth, which is what people would think he would do in that moment, it would very much, I mean, it would make her the immediate front runner if she were to do that, which is
incredible.
An odd thing to say for this country.
Seriously, like we go back, when did her whole Native American thing blow up? What was it, like 6 months ago, a year ago?
Well, it was right before the beginning of the year when she released the DNA test. It was before, like, so end of 2018.
Okay, so it's like less than a year ago.
Incredible.
You thought
that was it? I thought it was
right.
it.
That is,
over.
she's done. Right. There's no way she's going to run for president. There's no way she's going to win. There's no way she would have a successful or even close to successful campaign with all of this blowing up in her face. And today we're talking about the possibility of her being a front runner.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the incompetence of the rest of them. Like, I don't know if it's just like people we have to pick
I think
somebody.
It's timing. I mean, that's I think more than anything. I mean, it's fresh. Like, I think if the whole DNA thing happened now, she'd be done.
Americans have a short
attention
span.
It's an attention span is what more so what it is. They figure, well, that happened. It's not even on their mind. They're not thinking about it. This is something fresh. Maybe even if Sanders had, passed out or something like that, maybe right before he started campaigning, they probably would have forgotten about it right now. So that's more so what it is. We were just talking about that with the whole impeachment thing. It's like it's a timing thing. It's like if it's gonna hurt or if it's not gonna hurt, almost solely depends on when it happens. You know what I mean? And if it happens later on, absolutely in this election cycle, then it's going to hurt you a lot more than what it does early on. Thankfully for her, and maybe that's why she released it, because it's like, hey, let me get
in front of it.
Let me get this out the way, because I might get laughed at for a little bit, but 6 months after the fact, people aren't even going to talk about it. And she's right, because we're not even discussing it, and that was a pretty big deal that she lied about this. You think about just her entire.
She benefited.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to mention. You think about how much she benefited from this lie. That's a pretty big deal, but we forgot about it. We're not even talking about it. So it's a timing thing more than anything.
Yeah. Zuby, you're our UK expert, right?
Yeah.
What are the people in the UK? How do they view Elizabeth Warren? Did you guys even
think
hear
they do.
about the scandal?
I did.
Okay.
I did because I thought it was hilarious. I follow U.S. politics largely because, it's like WWE wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Every day, every week.
Exactly what it is.
There's some new crazy.
So proud.
So
proud.
There's something new crazy that's come out. I don't think in the UK most people would know who she is.
Really?
No.
Interesting.
I'm sure the people who are really into politics would. But the average person, I don't think most people would know.
Until she becomes the nominee, I would assume. I mean,
right.
I
then
can't.
they'll start following her.
Same thing with us, right? Like
Right.
when we hear, oh, that's the prime minister, and then we start learning things about them.
Yeah, but I feel like people, and this isn't meant as we're United States and we're superior, but I always find it fascinating that there are a lot of people who live in different countries who are just very, very into American politics for whatever reason.
Well, America's the biggest country in the Western world in almost in every sense of the word. Biggest population by a country mile, and it's a global leader in many ways. America's called the leaders of the free world. I don't know who came up with that name,
probably
probably, but it's true. The U.S. is our front runners in a lot of things. Whether you're talking about culture, you're talking about politics, music, entertainment, whatever it is, people look to the U.S. and see what's going on there, and that does have some global impact for other people, especially if you're talking about things like war or the military and all that kind of stuff. Those are global concerns. But yeah, just in terms of the politics itself and the people involved, I just think there's so many different characters, and there's always some drama. And I don't know if it's good having politics and entertainment being so closely tied in the way they are. In some ways, I think it's good, but in others, I'm kind of like, man, people need to take a step away from this thing and stop politicizing everything. But it's where it is now. So
Yeah. I mean, we don't mean to brag or anything, but we're kind of a big deal. All right, back in a minute. In our Orange Man Bad segment, we will talk about the impeachment probe is, of course, heating up. Donald Trump had quite an interesting comment on the impeachment probe heating up. He said, "The do-nothing Democrats should be focused on building up our country, not wasting everyone's time and energy on BS," and the word is capitalized and spelled out, which is what they have been doing ever since I got overwhelmingly elected in 2016. 223 to 306. Get a better candidate this time. You'll need it.
Shots fired.
Man, that is amazing. That is, like I said, it sounds like something I would say, man. Like, this absolutely sounds
But you
like,
thought it was fake
I
when
thought
you
it was
saw
fake.
it.
When I first saw it, I was like, because I saw it and it was like almost in a meme form. So I was like, you know, somebody just photoshopped Donald Trump's face. Yeah, they said, like, this is no way this is real, because just in terms of how he was saying it, the rhetoric doesn't even sound like something that I would expect from him. Even him, you know, from Twitter, I'm like, there's
pretty bold.
no way he said that. Just it's a big hot side is what I call it. Like, it's like he's talking noise. Like I said, it sounds like something I would say. So I'm like, there's no way that he said it, but it's legit. It's legit. But it is an interesting thing, though, because on a serious note, that is sort of what we're talking about, and it's not just with the people that are trying to run against him. I think it's just people that have governmental power in general do spend a lot of time worrying about him, what he can say, as opposed to what, you know, we have this idea that they're supposed to be helping the people. I argue that's antithetical to what anybody in government does or can do or has any aspirations to do. But ideally, that's what they say they do. And they are very weird. I would say certainly more in comparison to the past presidency. It's like they are so worried about this man, and it's like they're not even doing what they should be doing or what's in the scope of their supposed job with the government. They're more worried about capping on him.
Yeah, well, now, I mean, you could look at it and say, probably not a good idea to tweet this particular thing. But if you look at what he's saying, he's not wrong.
Not at all.
I mean, other than the overwhelmingly, right?
Yeah.
But he's not wrong.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they have been doing. So part of me is like, you know what? I can't blame him for feeling that way, because it's true. Zuby?
Yeah. I was about to say, did he lie?
Right. But, like, what did he say there that's not true?
That was factual.
Yeah.
People say that, you know, people talk about the rhetoric. I didn't like the tone. It's like, but he told it. What you can't.
Did he lie, though?
Yeah. What's the logic that's not true there? I mean, it's true. I mean, again, coming as an outsider, that's the thing that's been most bewildering to me since Trump got elected, is for, you know, had the Democrats been reasonable, you think they'd take a step back and think, okay, what happened last time? How did this guy win?
Right.
And what can we do to, you know, counter that? That would have been the sort of adult, rational, reasonable thing to do. But instead, it's just like, okay, we're just going to double down and triple down on all of the stuff that did not work last time and that drove people to Trump last time. I mean, look, if he's that bad, if you truly think the Orange Man is evil and is Hitler and is a white supremacist, all the things that people say and throw out there, it shouldn't be that hard to beat him by playing fair. It really shouldn't. You shouldn't have to be worrying about impeaching him or doing this or trying to get him kicked off Twitter or any of that stuff. You should just be able to bring one of these 25 or however many candidates you've got. Surely you can find one person who can easily beat this guy. And you wouldn't be doing all of this stuff if you didn't deem him to be a threat. It's like, you know, you can't, if you can easily, fairly win the game, why not just wait until next year, make your votes, go through the process, and cool, you've got it. And the way people seem to be behaving is the way people behave when they're really just afraid. Really, it's fear. It's like, crap, like this guy might get another term. We're not doing this, you know what I mean? We're not doing kind of how we thought we would be. So people can say what they want about his tweets. As far as that I'm concerned, I'm like, this is nothing new.
Right.
This is Trump being Trump. And telling it like it is in a language that people don't like, even though lots of those people who don't like it will use language far worse than that.
Like
they talk just like that. They say the worst things. They say worse things about him, about other people. So they don't really have a leg to stand on that. And yeah, I mean, what he said was, that's kind of my analysis of it.
The worst part about his tweet probably is the coverage that's now taking place on CNN and MSNBC and all of the mainstream media outlets who are running wall-to-wall coverage about Trump saying the word BS in a tweet. There was a tweet that a writer for the New York Times said, there it is, CNN just cleared its staff to use the word BS, but the actual word, in graphics, banners, and headlines per memo from network head of standards. He said we should show and say it because the president sent it out just that way.
I thought that this guy was the worst person on the planet. Now your justification is because you can copy his actions.
That guy has a lot of control, man.
He really does. He runs every one of these channels.
He lives
runs
in their
them.
heads.
He does.
24/7.
And it's not only is it really bad for them. I don't care about them, so I mean, like, it's a really bad idea for them to let him run their news network. But also, it's not good for you mentioned this before. It's like it's not good for the country to be this focused on politics all the time. The fact that everybody who has been president of the United States has probably, maybe back to George Washington, maybe he didn't swear. But they're all swearing. I mean, we've had many candidates that have been caught on tape swearing. They've said it in interviews. It was never this big of a deal. John Kerry was swearing like every third word back in that election, and it was barely even noted. Now, because it's on Twitter, they have to put it on here. The funniest part about CNN, and this goes to Cory Booker is big on this bandwagon too, they are absolutely children when it comes to these swear words. Like, they are so excited that they now have a free pass to say the S word on the TV. And it's like, I have an 8-year-old who, you know what, when he's around his friends, they like to tell fart jokes because they just decided that this is really hilarious and this is what they want to talk about. And they feel like this is this thing I really shouldn't say, but I can kind of say it. And that's how CNN acts. They act as if the ability to say this word, they've got this free pass. It's not us. We didn't do it. He said it. I swear. It's pathetic. It's so childish.
It's like when he said "s-hole countries."
Oh gosh, yeah.
And they had to put it on the screen.
Oh, they were so happy to say it too.
Don't you think they like him?
Oh, I think
mean,
you're right.
How many people is he keeping in jobs?
Oh, yeah.
True.
Like, he's literally every day he's giving them new gifts to talk about. Helping their ratings, helping their viewerships.
Is he helping their ratings though?
The ratings
I think their ratings are great.
It depends. They've been up and down, right? Like CNN's have been pretty bad, but I think that's the problem. MSNBC's have not been as bad. And I think part of the expectation from CNN is you're actually getting news, where MSNBC you're getting Rachel Maddow, you're getting a leftist view. So I think it's helped MSNBC in some ways. I think it's hurt CNN, but it goes back to like when you have, it goes back to local media covering a football team, right? Like no one wants to have Bill Belichick as your coach because he never says anything, right? Like everyone wants, some loudmouth, idiotic coach that's blurting things out all the time because it gives you free stuff to write about. It's easy. It makes their job cake. And so they can justify that this is such an important thing because the presidency and all of our traditions have been upended. They don't care about any of that crap. This just makes their job easy. They instead of having to go get a quote from a source or work hard, they just go on Twitter and say, I can't believe he said this word. Let me say it to you now so I can do the same thing he just did. Can I ask one other thing? Do you have the initial Trump tweet again?
Yes. Yeah. Can we pull the Trump tweet up, please?
This is something that's driving me nuts. Number one, I don't understand the capitalization policy here. Why is country capitalized?
Do nothing Democrats is fine because it's the name that he's given them.
Right, okay, fine. Country, I don't understand why. In another one, he had crime for some reason capitalized. But more than anything else, I just want to draw, this is a guy who spends a lot of time thinking about the 2016 election. Are we right? We all agree on that, right? Yes. Like, this is something... Can you get the electoral count correct? It was not 306 to 223. Can someone tell him what it was? It was not. It was 306 to 232. 538.com, the site? It's because there's 538 electoral votes. It has to add up to that number. It can't end in a 9.
It's minor details.
I just don't understand it. Every time he says it wrong.
I think it's on purpose.
We gotta go.
So perfect.
Just don't go.
Someone. Coming up in overtime, we've got some fundraising numbers from the third quarter. Also, underwear that you can wear for weeks without cleaning them. Oh, here we go.